Retirement. The golden years when you're supposed to kick back, sip margaritas by the beach, and not care about a thing. Well, guess what? Turns out retirement is less about sunsets and more about financial survival mode. Rising costs. Let's talk inflation. That sneaky little monster turning your hard-earned savings into monopoly money. Sure, inflation may have cooled down from the 9% peak we saw in 2022, but at 4%, it's still nibbling away at your wallet like termites in an old wooden house. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Consumer Price Index rose by about 4% this year, meaning every dollar you saved is now worth less than the change between your couch cushions. You thought you'd saved enough to live comfortably? Surprise! Your money now stretches about as far as a rubber band in a hurricane. But it's not just the numbers on the page. It's about what you can actually afford. Remember grocery shopping when eggs were just eggs? Now they're practically the new gold standard. Grocery prices have surged by nearly 10% in the past year. And it's not just eggs. Meat, bread, vegetables, everything you need for your basic meals now feels like a luxury. Retirees are spending more than $400 a month just to keep food on the table. Forget splurging on steak or organic veggies. Your new best friend is the discount aisle. And that's just groceries. Think about the cost of utilities, transportation, and daily essentials. A tank of gas that once cost $40 now sets you back $60. And those heating bills in the winter? They've become as unpredictable as the weather. Rising energy costs have made it harder for retirees to keep the lights on. Quite literally. According to the US Energy Information Administration, electricity prices jumped nearly 6% in the last year alone, meaning your utility bills are now a major chunk of your monthly budget. Oh, and housing? If you're renting, get ready for the bad news. Rents have shot up by 20% in major cities like New York and Miami. Seniors are forking out an average of $2,000 a month just to keep a roof over their heads, according to the Joint Center for Housing Studies. And owning a home? Don't think you're off the hook. Rising property taxes, especially in states like California and Texas, combined with maintenance costs from roof repairs to new appliances, can easily run you into the thousands annually. That charming dream home you worked so hard for? It's now a money pit disguised as retirement paradise. And now, healthcare, the cherry on top of this retirement nightmare. A study by Fidelity Investments showed that a couple retiring in 2024 will need roughly $315,000 just to cover medical expenses throughout retirement. And that's assuming they're perfectly healthy. With rising premiums, out-of-pocket expenses, and long-term care on the horizon, Medicare might as well be made of Swiss cheese for all the gaps it leaves. Prescription meds? Through the roof. Routine doctor visits? Better bring a suitcase full of cash. Healthcare isn't just a cost, it's a financial freight train barreling towards your savings. So here we are. Retirees are sitting at the kitchen table, staring at bills, trying to figure out whether to pay for groceries, healthcare, or the roof over their heads. Spoiler alert, they're losing the game. Savings crisis. Let's be real. Saving for retirement used to be a straightforward deal. You put some money away, your company chipped in with a nice pension, and by 65, you sailed smoothly into the golden years. But now, we're living in a world where your nest egg looks more like a pigeon egg. Here's the brutal reality. Nearly half of US households aged 55 and older have no retirement savings at all. Yep, you heard right. Zero. And for those who do have some savings, the numbers aren't much better. According to the Federal Reserve, the median retirement savings for those who are saving is about $144,000. That might sound like a lot, but spread it over a 20-year retirement, and that's barely $7,200 a year. It's like trying to live on a college student's budget, but with medical bills. So, what happened? How did we go from the set it and forget it pension plans to I hope I don't outlive my savings? Simple. Pensions, the backbone of the 20th century American retirement dream, have become about as rare as flip phones. As companies shifted the burden to employees, we got stuck with the 401ks, IRAs, and the responsibility of figuring it out ourselves. Spoiler alert, most of us aren't financial wizards. Here's the kicker. 401ks are basically glorified stock market roller coasters. The average person invests their money, but when the market tanks, hello 2008, hello 2020 pandemic, you lose a chunk of your retirement savings overnight. It's like playing poker with your future, except most people are holding a pair of twos. And the worst part? If you don't have the knowledge or time to manage these accounts properly, you could be paying high fees for mediocre returns, further eating into your savings. Let's take it one step further. According to the National Institute on Retirement Security, 76% of Americans believe they won't be able to achieve a secure retirement. That's a staggering number. And the reality is, many people who thought they were set for retirement are realizing their savings won't last as long as they thought. Whether it's the rising cost of living, healthcare, or just outliving your savings, the financial landscape for retirees is more uncertain than ever before. So, where does that leave us? With retirement accounts that don't add up and a government program that's running on fumes, many retirees are relying on savings that aren't nearly enough. Those dreams of taking cruises, traveling the world, or spoiling the grandkids, yeah, they're turning into dreams of, maybe I'll pick up a part-time job. The healthcare horror. If there's one thing that will sneak up and bite into your retirement savings, it's healthcare. We all know it's expensive, but what no one tells you is that it's basically the financial grim reaper for retirees. Let's start with some hard numbers. According to Fidelity, the average couple retiring in 2024 will need around $315,000 to cover medical expenses throughout retirement. And no, that doesn't cover luxury spa treatments. That's just the basics. Things like premiums, deductibles, prescription drugs, and surprise medical bills. And guess what? Medicare, the program you thought would have your back, only covers about 80% of hospital and medical costs. The other 20%? All on you. Let's not forget about prescription drugs. Prices are so high that retirees now face a grim choice. Do I buy my heart medication or do I eat this month? Prescription drug prices have been rising faster than inflation for years. The average cost of a brand name drug has increased by over 60% in the last decade. And if you're on multiple medications, that can mean thousands of dollars out of your pocket each year. And that's not the worst part. The real financial ticking time bomb is long-term care. Whether it's home health aides or a nursing facility stay, long-term care costs can wipe out your savings faster than you can say nursing home. A private room in a nursing home will set you back around $108,000 a year. And no, Medicare doesn't cover that either. Most long-term care costs are not covered by Medicare at all. But wait, there's more! According to the US Department of Health and Human Services, 70% of retirees will need some form of long-term care. That's not a maybe, it's a strong likelihood. And unless you've got a spare $100,000 lying around, you're in trouble. So what's the game plan? You can either pray for perfect health or start budgeting for what is, quite frankly, an inevitable financial disaster. Healthcare is no longer just a cost in retirement. It's the Goliath threatening to swallow it whole. Social Security squeeze. Social Security, the mythical safety net that was supposed to keep you cushioned in your golden years. It was the promise that after decades of working, paying taxes, and surviving corporate politics, you'd have a steady check waiting for you. Except now that net looks more like it's been through the shredder. Social Security was never designed to be your sole income in retirement. When it was created in 1935, people were lucky to live to 65. It worked because most didn't collect benefits for long. But in 2024, people are living into their 80s and 90s. Social Security is stretching thinner than cheap toilet paper. According to the Social Security Administration, by 2035, they'll only have enough funds to pay out 80% of scheduled benefits. If you're already scraping by on those checks, imagine what happens when they shrink by 20%. This isn't about cutting back on luxuries. It's about asking yourself, can I afford to keep the lights on? Let's talk about pensions. Pensions were once the crown jewel of retirement. Today, only about 14% of workers in the private sector have pensions. In their place, we've seen the rise of 401ks and IRAs, where you're responsible for managing your own future. But here's the thing. Even public pensions are not safe. According to the American Legislative Exchange Council, some state pensions are underfunded by as much as $6 trillion. That's a huge hole that retirees will eventually have to pay for, either through cuts in their benefits or by pushing the retirement age even higher. What's worse, companies are phasing out pension plans left and right. The number of employers offering pension plans has dropped sharply over the last 30 years, with many corporations opting for pension freezes or cuts when the financial situation gets rough. Some of the biggest corporations, such as General Electric, have either frozen or reduced their pension programs in the face of economic challenges. Social Security is running on fumes, and pensions are dying up faster than a summer creek. If you were banking on these two to keep you afloat, you might want to consider picking up a side gig, or a few, because relying on these so-called safety nets might just leave you free-falling. Gig economy grind. You worked hard your whole life, played by the rules, and maybe even climbed the corporate ladder. But that corporate ladder, it's more like a slide, straight into layoffs and the gig economy. Corporate layoffs aren't just for the unlucky few anymore. Since 2020, we've seen massive layoffs across industries, tech, retail, you name it. And the worst part? It's hitting older workers the hardest. Companies like to call it downsizing or restructuring. But let's be real, it's about being replaced by cheaper, younger workers or even software. According to a 2021 report by the National Bureau of Economic Research, older workers are more likely to be laid off during economic downturns, and those who lose their jobs struggle to find new ones. In fact, research from the AARP Public Policy Institute shows that workers aged 50 and over face a 60% higher likelihood of long-term unemployment compared to younger workers. This isn't just about ageism. It's about how corporate systems are designed to prioritize cost-cutting over loyalty to employees who've been around for decades. Think you'll land another cushy job before retirement? Think again. Workers over 50 are facing a tough reality. According to AARP, 56% of older workers are forced out of their jobs before they're ready to retire. Once you're out, you've got a 10% chance of ever making the same salary again. It's not just about finding a job, it's about finding one that pays what you used to make. What happens next? Welcome to the gig economy, where flexibility means no benefits, no security, and no retirement plan. Suddenly, you're driving for Uber or delivering groceries because that's the only work available. While you're hustling to keep the lights on, your savings and retirement accounts are draining fast. Gig work might bring in some extra cash, but without healthcare, paid time off, or a 401k, it's not a safety net. According to a 2022 study by the Pew Research Center, 16% of older Americans who work in the gig economy report that it's their main source of income, not supplemental. And juggling gig work with aging, it's like juggling chainsaws. You're trying to stay afloat in a world that doesn't offer much of a life raft. The gig economy promises freedom, but what it really delivers is constant financial insecurity. You're not building toward retirement anymore, you're just trying to survive day by day. And the worst part? Gig jobs have no job security. So if the platform decides to change its terms or cut your access, you're out. No notice, no severance, just done. And let's not forget the emotional toll. After decades of working your way up, having to start over in a gig job, it's a tough pill to swallow. What was supposed to be a time for relaxation and enjoyment becomes a grind to make ends meet. Retirement has gone from a dream to a distant memory, all thanks to a corporate system that's more interested in the bottom line than the people who built it. Work till you drop. Remember when retirement was all about enjoying life? Traveling, relaxing, maybe spoiling the grandkids? Well, now that dream is being replaced by a much grimmer reality. Working until you die. It's less golden years and more clocking in for eternity. Retirement is no longer an automatic ticket to freedom. For millions of Americans, it's becoming clear they'll be working well into their 70s and beyond. And no, we're not talking about leisurely side gigs like knitting scarves to sell on Etsy. We're talking about full-time jobs just to cover the basics, because someone's gotta pay for those skyrocketing utility bills. The reasons? Oh, they stack up faster than the mail in your junk folder. Rising costs, shrinking savings, and the collapse of Social Security and pensions have created the perfect storm. According to recent data, nearly 20% of Americans aged 65 and older are still working, and that number goes up every year. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Talk about a retirement plot twist no one asked for. And these aren't just the cushy part-time coffee shop gigs where you chat with locals over lattes. Seniors are taking on physically demanding jobs. Ones that should be left to people half their age. Driving for Uber, bagging groceries, even construction work, just to pay rent and keep the lights on. It's more like senior hustle than senior living. The reality of aging is that we slow down, physically and mentally. But today's economic system, it doesn't care. It keeps pushing you to grind, even when your back is saying, no thanks. The golden years have turned into a grueling marathon, and for many, there's no finish line in sight. And then there's the mental toll. After a lifetime of working, the thought of never retiring is downright overwhelming. What happened to the dream of spending time with family, picking up hobbies, maybe finally learning how to play that guitar gathering dust in the corner? Instead, the daily grind continues, right up until your health or circumstances finally say, enough. But by then, it's too late to enjoy the retirement you once imagined. This isn't just an exaggeration. A study by ProPublica shows that 56% of older workers are pushed out of their jobs before they're ready to retire. Many are forced to take lower-paying jobs with no benefits. Some are working until they physically can't anymore. And others, the brutal reality is, are dying while still on the job. Not exactly the relaxing sunset you had in mind, huh? So here we are. The new retirement plan? Work until you drop. It's not the future anyone envisioned, but for millions, it's the harsh reality they're facing. And the scariest part? It could happen to any of us. But if this isn't the retirement you envisioned, it might be time to rethink your game plan. Whether it's revisiting your saving strategy, seeking alternative income sources, or planning for those inevitable healthcare costs, it's never too late to take control of your financial future. Because while the system might be broken, your retirement doesn't have to be. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. And as a special gift, don't miss my next video. Retire rich with these 9 money-saving habits. It's packed with actionable tips to help you stretch your dollars and build the retirement you've always dreamed of. Click the link and start saving smarter today.